How's it going, guys? Welcome to the FM Dugout for the first episode of the new series Restoration Project Rangers. So what's the Restoration Project series about? Well, it's fairly obvious. It's about returning a team back to where they were previously and possibly going a few steps further. So this series will focus on getting Rangers back into the Scottish Premiership and, dominating Scottish football really. So getting Celtic off the top, and then getting into Europe and getting to the latter stages of the Champions League and possibly even looking to win it. It just depends how it goes. Now, I've chosen Rangers for a few reasons. First of all, I'm Scottish, if you couldn't tell. Secondly, I am actually a Rangers fan, so I usually do a save on Rangers every single Football Manager that comes out, at least one anyway. And I figured why not this time round make a series of it. So the idea of the first episode is to run through the current playing squad and assess them and say whether or not I'm going to keep them or what role they're going to play. Look at the tactics that I'm going to use this year, and then also talk about who I might potentially sign, or at least the positions I'm looking to strengthen. So let's jump into the squad and take a look. We'll just do it from the squad depth. First of all, probably the best place to look at. So Wes Foderingham will be the first choice goalkeeper. Cammy Bell is earning far too much money, 5k a week for a keeper who I think in real life has really struggled. So he will be moving on as quickly as I can get him out of the club. Robbie Mccrory is one of these players that if you've played Football Manager before and you've had games in and around Scotland, he usually develops into a pretty good goalkeeper. So keeping him in around the first team should hopefully see his skills improve, giving him some game time in League Cup and the Challenge Cup, or whatever it's called now, Petrofac Training Cup. In terms of right back, James Tavernier will be our first choice right back. Ryan Cinnamon, who, if you watch the Hexagon Challenge series that I've got on the channel, he was signed for Ajman Club and he's doing rather well, so he will be my right back backup when he comes back from his loan from Falkirk. Unfortunately, I can't call him back. Dominic Ball can play there, who's obviously on loan from Tottenham, but he's more suited to playing as a centre back, which is where I would see him playing. At left back, Lee Wallace first choice. Jordan Thompson is here as a backup left back. Now, for me, that doesn't really sit that well with me. I don't think he's a left back, although his skills do kind of align with it. It's not too bad. Maybe he could play there. Certainly that's probably one area where I'd like to have an actual left back. I have called up a youngster from the reserves to basically fill in that position should Lee Wallace get injured, but we'll see. If I can find someone at left back, that's where I'll look to do it. Central defence, pretty straightforward. Rob Kiernan, solid defender. Danny Wilson, also pretty decent, and then Dominic Ball as well. So I think we're pretty sorted for central defence. We've got youngsters that can cover that position, which should hopefully not be required. Then moving on into midfield, defensive midfielder. So this is one area where we're lacking, right? And this is where I want to sign someone, because I think at the moment that's where Rangers struggle, is they don't really have a quality defensive midfielder. So it's kind of saying Jordan Thompson is the best in there at the moment, because I don't really see Rob Kiernan playing in that position. I really want him to play as a defender. But we've also got Max Ashmore, who's a youngster, 17 years old. So these boys are both young, so I'll maybe look to get someone in, maybe 20, 21 years old, to play that defensive midfield role, should it be required. And I'll go through the tactics in a minute to show whether it will be or not. I don't intend on employing a midfield right or a midfield left, because I will be using attacking midfielders. That's just my style. In terms of central midfielders, Jason Holt is our best central midfielder. Pretty good, 2.5k, 3-year deal. Looks good to me. It's good in real life, so let's go with that. Then we've got Gideon Zelalem on loan from Arsenal. People know about this boy. He's got bags of potential, so I'm not too bothered about paying the 3k of his contract while he's on loan. as long as he can perform. The good thing as well, he can play in that attacking midfielder position. I think Jason Holt can as well, so it gives us that flexibility to move things around. Then Nicky Law is our third best central midfielder, earning slightly more than I would hope for. I think he's been unlucky with his time at Rangers. He's been mismanaged and not really played the right way, so hopefully this series I'll be able to utilise him a little bit better. Now what you'll notice is Andy Halliday isn't there now. He's not earning a great deal. He's a great utility man. He's a Rangers fan, so he's got things going for him, but I don't think he's that good. He's technically not brilliant. Certainly if I wanted to play him in a central midfield role, you can see his tackling and marking are all a bit low. His first touch isn't perfect or anything, so he'll be in and around. As long as he's happy to play a squad player, he'll be there. On the right wing, you can see here that we've got Barry Mackay, Kenny Miller, Dean Shields. I want to sell Kenny Miller and Dean Shields. Kenny Miller is on 5k a week for a 35-year-old. While his skills are good, he's past it, and I don't want to spend 5k a week on that sort of player. Likewise, Dean Shields, 30 years old, 5k. I don't think he's an exceptional player. Yes, he can play in a lot of positions, great, but 5k is too much. So those boys will be going, and what that means is we're a bit short on the right. Fraser Aird would probably be our third choice. Our backup winger, and he's decent in terms of his stats, but he's one of these players that I think his stats here are probably better than he is in real life. If you ask any Rangers fan, that's certainly what you're likely to get back as a response. On the left wing, David Templeton is our best winger. Now, again, very much like Aird, you look at his stats and you think, wow, he's a really good player, but he's really struggled at Rangers, and 7.5k a week is just too much. It's just far too much. So I will definitely be looking to sell David Templeton if I can, to free up the wages, and I'll definitely have to look at bringing in someone on the left. It is possible, of course, that I can play Martin Waghorn on the left as a winger, but he's not particularly confident there. And if we look at his skills, yeah, they're reasonable, so perhaps I'll do that, and he and Barry Mackay can swap wings. They could both be wingers, and then they could both be inside forwards, but certainly Templeton, I think, needs to go. We've covered the players that can play in the attacking midfielder. It's actually got Nicky Clark here as the third choice striker. He will be going as well. I think he's decidedly average. Yes, he's quite pacey, he's got a good work rate, no one can question that, but 3k a week, he needs to go, and I think he will do. Now, in terms of potential ability, you can see here that we've got a couple. Nathan Oduwa is on loan, right? So I'm going to ignore him because he won't be here more than this season. He's pacey, his finishing's decent, he's got good flair, but a lot of his other skills are lacking, and at 3k a week he's likely to get his deal terminated, and I'll send him back to Tottenham. Has I just reset that? Yep, it has. Ryan Hardy for me is really exciting. I think he needs to be playing this first season in that central striker role as much as possible, because I think he's got a lot of potential. Likewise with Tom Walsh. Tom Walsh is here as a striker, but I think some of his skills lend himself a bit more to playing in the wider positions as a winger. So, if we just look at winger, you can see everything's really pretty good. First touch, need to work on it. Unfortunately, work rate's a bit low. Stamina we can work on, but I think that's better than if you look at his if we just look at an advanced forward. There's a lot more single figure stats there, so that's that. Anyone else to call out in terms of defence? No, there's nobody else really to. Oh no, let's reset it again, my god. Right, potential Robbie Mccrory, you can see now why he's up there. Nobody else really around there. Ryan Cinnamon has potential. Ross Lyon, yes, Ross Lyon. So I've called him up from the reserves. he looks really good for a 17-year-old. Lots of double figure stats, can work on his crossing, his dribbling and his passing, stamina, but he looks like he has some real potential, and certainly I found in previous saves in earlier versions of Football Manager he has been really good. Anyone else? Who else? I'm trying to think who else I've missed out here. There's a lot of players at the moment. If I actually just go back to the squad, there's a lot of players out on loan. Certainly in midfield, Robbie Crawford is one of these guys, very fit but lacks any kind of technical ability, so he will be leaving. Darren Ramsey kind of falls in a similar kind of boat as Crawford. Now we've got Andy Murdoch, who broke into the first team last year at Rangers, and I think he's got potential, so I'd like to see how he gets on at Cowdenbeath and then potentially bring him back and get him in and around the first team. But yeah, so that's how the team is kind of shaping up at the moment. So if we now go on to look at the tactics, so anyone who knows me and has seen my series, I like 4-2-3-1 wide, and I think it's a good formation here with the players that are here, because Mark Warburton's pretty much playing that same formation, potentially playing someone in midfield there, but I like to have someone just in behind the striker, so that will be my preferred formation. The fullbacks are set to get forward whenever they've got the ball, so what I'm hoping we'll see is a ball winning midfielder on defend will probably drop further back and help the centre back pairing, and it just depends on how the other teams line up against us and who we're playing as to whether or not we go with this formation or my backup formation, which has an anchorman sitting just in front of the central defenders, but pretty much the same formation, so it's just swapping the attacking midfielder for the defensive one. And then finally, one option to give me two strikers is the 5-2-1-2 wing back. Now the reason for thinking this is I'm still getting width from my wing backs. I've got a lot of solidity in the central defensive area with three defenders, and we've got three good defenders that can play that position. I think we've got midfielders that can play that role. We've also got midfielders like Holt and ZLM and Law that can play there, but I just wanted something that had two strikers, because you never know where it might come in, and that's where you might see Waghorn playing alongside Hardy, and it might work really well. But certainly the focal point of the attacks will go through the middle of the park here with overlapping fullbacks kind of supporting, but I'm not expecting to use that unless the one striker kind of approach fails and doesn't do particularly well. So that's roughly where things are, and what I'll be looking to do, as I say, will be to sign people to strengthen up this left wing a little bit. A left back and probably an attacking midfielder left, trying to get rid of Kenny Miller, Dean Shields, David Templeton, Cammy Bell, get rid of those, free up some wages, and then see who we can bring in those positions. I will also be looking at the defensive midfielder area, so if we do go with that formation, then I want someone who is going to be able to play that role better than Jordan Thompson can at the moment. So who am I going to be buying? Well, I am going to be focusing pretty much on the British game. I've got England and Scotland as selected leagues. I am going to be looking at younger players with potential to grow into players that are capable of taking this team to the top of the Scottish Premiership, getting them into Europe in the coming years, and maybe making money out of them if they end up going back down to England. I'd probably rather do that than sign established players, because you have to pay more wages, you have to pay more to get them in the first place. Again, I will scour free transfer markets. That's generally what I do when I'm at a club that doesn't have a huge amount of money. Rangers certainly don't have a huge amount of money here. They've got 8 million at the moment in the bank, a transfer budget of 500,000 and a wage budget of 118,000. This money will disappear. In this league, it burns up very, very quickly with the sort of salaries Rangers are paying. So if we take a quick look at the contracts, you can see here, there's a number of players over half the squad there are on 3,000 or more pretty much. Well, maybe not quite half. And it's guys like Templeton that I really need to look to move on. Kenny Miller, Dean Shields, Cammy Bell. So, I mean, that's what's Templeton on? 7.5. That's 22,500 I could save by getting rid of those 4 players. And I don't think we really need them. Lee Wallace is a captain at the club. He's on 8,000 a week. So, potentially I might look to sell him if there's any interest. Or maybe I can try and get his contract down. I'll just have to see how that goes, but I'll keep you informed of it. So that's the end of first episode. Just a quick run through the squad and the idea of where we're going to head. What I'll look to do is to bring I'm not going to focus on the cups, certainly in the early rounds, because they're against small teams. If we get drawn against a big team, then I may well do one of these cups. In real life, Rangers drew Hibs in the Challenge Cup first round. So we'll see whether that happens or not. Failing that, the first game I'll be doing will be St Mirren at home to see how we fare, and I'll probably just hop around between St Mirren and Hibernian. They're the bigger games, and then also I'll do cup games assuming we get any kind of cup run. So hopefully you enjoyed that little run through. If you're looking forward to this series, leave a comment, leave a like, let me know what your thoughts are on it, and until the next time, I'll see you when I see you.